Morning, Jim.
Morning, Tom.
Just for information, we do have a number of members of the public in attendance today, presumably to deal with applications that are on the agenda. Just so you're aware.
Okay. And is that like they're just in attendance listening or what? In the
Well, I think they're
boardroom
certainly
or?
listening. Beyond that, I don't really know. It's a public meeting, of course.
Okay,
So.
they're not in the boardroom.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
They are in the boardroom.
Not in the boardroom.
Did you say they're not in the boardroom? Sorry, you're breaking up. So, they
Yeah,
are in the
sorry.
boardroom.
Yes, they are in the boardroom. Okay, thank
Correct.
you.
Yeah, correct.
Last question. Are they requesting to speak or just there?
Just here.
Okay.
Hey, Tom, I had just a question about the one-on-one budget discussions that we had late last year. Were those recorded in a way that I could take a listen to them?
I'm going to have to check. Quite honestly, I don't recall. I think they may have been, but I think we'd want to verify that.
Sure, I'm just trying to jog my memory on something. If that's accessible, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah, they were actual meetings, so if you did it by Teams, they should be recorded. Okay, we're at the appointed hour. So I'd like to call the Electoral Area Services Committee of Wednesday, August 17th to order. We have a quorum for sure. And first item is adoption of the public agenda.
Move adoption.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? Moving on, petitions and delegations. We have none. Adoption of previous meeting minutes.
Move adoption.
Seconder,
Second.
discussion. Anyone opposed? Carried. On to business arising. Is there any? Hearing none. Public considerations, there's none. We'll move right down to staff reports.
Move receipt of the staff report on the Beckley application for a
Sorry.
DVP.
Sorry, I missed that one.
Move
Okay,
receipt. Move receipt of the staff report.
Second.
Okay, on receipt, seconder.
Mr. Chair, John will speak to this.
Okay, John. Welcome, John.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Application has been received to vary the front yard setback to allow the proposed construction of a 45 square metre deck addition to an existing single-family dwelling. The parcel is zoned country residential 4, and The proposed deck addition will be joined to the southwest elevation of the existing dwelling and be located as close as 4.5 meters from the front property line, whereas the bylaw specifies that buildings and structure shall be sited a minimum of 7.5 meters from the front line. And a front yard setback variance is therefore required. The closest neighbouring residence at 4504 Coblin Road is located approximately 17 metres from the proposed deck addition. And given the siting of a wooden fence and established shrubbery separating the two buildings, and also that any windows facing the proposed deck don't appear to correspond to the primary living areas, any potential impacts of the addition should be minimal. And given these, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm finished.
Okay, that's it. Any discussion from directors on the receipt? Okay,
I had a question actually, Director Lee.
this is on receipt. Okay.
Yeah, through the chair to John Neal. Was there any correspondence received from property owners who were notified?
Through the chair, no correspondence was received from adjoining property owners.
Or no communications at all about the application?
No correspondence of any sort.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so on receipt, anyone opposed? Okay, that's carried. Item B, committee
Move
recommend.
Move item B to recommend the permit be issued.
Second.
Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That's carried. Eagle subdivision floodplain covenant report be received.
Move receipt of report.
Second.
Is there a staff member to speak to it or not?
Mr. Chair, Meredith will speak to this.
Thank you
Okay,
through the chair.
welcome Meredith.
Thank you through the chair. So this is the Hagel subdivision was previously approved, and in March, this board approved the parkland dedication as part of this subdivision. Now that we are registering the parkland dedication and putting the Section 219 covenants on title, it has come to our attention that before we can do that, we need to diminish two of the floodplain covenants that are historic on title. And so this is the request for us to authorize us to clear those historic covenants in order to receive the parkland and ensure that our new Section 219 covenants for wildlife protection can be added. Thank you.
Okay, I just have a question. I haven't seen the word diminished used in the report before. What exactly does that mean? Removed?
Thank you through the chair. So this is language from the Land Title and Survey Authority. What that refers to is that these the historic floodplain covenants, we are taking them out of that floodplain covenant. It's being protected under a different way. And so because we are diminishing the covenant that is historically on title by replacing it with a new covenant, that's what that means, that those old historic covenants are being diminished.
All right, so it's just they're being downsized and then there's another one being put in place.
That is
of
correct.
another type or whatever. Okay, thank you. Now I understand. Okay, so are we still on receipt, Tom? Sorry.
Yes, you are.
Okay, on receipt, any opposition? Okay, on to item B.
So I would move item B so that we can register the parkland and remove the floodplain covenant or reduce the floodplain covenant.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That's carried. On to number 3, noise regulation within electoral area A.
Move receipt.
Report CAO.
Second.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, Tom will speak to this.
Okay, Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the report basically outlines the process should there be a desire to establish a noise regulation service within electoral area A. It doesn't deal, of course, with specific regulatory matters. That would be a second step if that was the desire of the board to allow that to happen. So first step is obviously the establishment of a service. Second step would be any regulatory measures that were deemed appropriate to deal with whatever the issues are. And quite frankly, I'm not sure what those issues are, but I'm sure Director Wally can speak to them if he wishes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything, Gerald?
Yes,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair. After we receive this, I have a subsequent motion I would like to make.
Okay.
Can I,
So on receipt, let's move on.
Director
Go ahead,
Anderson
Nova.
has a question,
Yeah, I said go ahead, Nova.
oh, apologies. Yeah, I just wanted to offer a tiny bit of context for Director Wally from Cortez. We've been round and round for a long time, contemplating a noise, provisions on Cortez with regards to aquaculture, and we've just come to the determination, after a lot of investigation for a long time, that that it just is not workable in a rural area where there's so many different noises, and where people expect to have, the rural noises that come with rural property ownership, and the distance of any enforcement capacity. By the time the noises happen, the enforcement can't be here till the next day or the next week. And so, we have an agreement with a shellfish operator around specific decibel levels in one particular case, but I have found the noise regulations to be a very blunt tool that just isn't applicable. That's just my experience. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Gerald, anything else? Okay, we'll move on then if anyone is opposed. Seeing none, that's carried. Item K, bylaws, bylaw number
Just a
1.
moment.
Mr.
Chair.
Chair,
Second.
I think Gerald had a subsequent motion.
Oh, that's right, you did say that. I'm sorry, Gerald. Yeah, I asked you if there was anything further, Gerald, but I guess you didn't hear me.
All right, so
Okay, go ahead.
I would move that option A, that the committee recommend that a further report and draft bylaw be prepared for establishing a noise control service for electoral area A.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any comments? Naba?
Yeah, before being able to support this, just because of my experience of having, looked into this for years, before dedicating staff time and resources to this, I'd want to have a greater understanding about what's up in Area A and whether a noise bylaw is at all an appropriate tool to address that. So I'd appreciate if Gerald could speak a little bit to the issue.
I'd be willing to
If
do
I
that.
could just, if I could just interject something first, Gerald. Nova, I believe the noise bylaw that you're talking about and the issue that you're talking about was primarily shellfish aquaculture, the mechanization of, and the noise that was created by that. Is that not basically what you're talking about with the noise
Well, that
bylaw?
has been the most sort of egregious historical one, but in that process, we were looking at complaints that come from all kinds of situations, from, sort of home construction, industrial development, parties, chainsaws. I mean, I get noise complaints all the time about various things, and so we looked at creating a noise bylaw. Generally for Cortez.
Okay.
So although, Jim, you're right that was the most sort of acute and long-standing issue, it opened a much bigger can of worms that I have some context for. So I just would like to hear what's up in Area A.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Gerald.
Thank you. Yes, in response to Director Anderson, this is a very specific focus for propane cannons that are placed adjacent to residences. And it's not a general noise bylaw at all. It's just specifically for these propane cannons.
Okay,
So if I might, Chair, it's my understanding that you can't create bylaws to specifically, nuisance bylaws, which noise is a subset of, to address one particular sort of property owner or offender. We looked at a nuisance bylaw that was really initiated by one particular property who was, collecting a whole lot of cars, and I was advised repeatedly by Mr. Yates that you couldn't create a bylaw specifically targeted at one particular user or property owner. So are these canons sort of pervasive across electoral area A, or is this one particular person or property that's doing it?
It's not one particular property. And the Township of Langley has already established bylaws that are kind of the direction I would like to proceed in. So I'd like to see what staff can bring back, and we'll see whether it's appropriate or not at that point.
yeah, and the motion is to do a further report and draft bylaws. So let's wait for the further report if this passes. Any further discussion? Okay. Anyone opposed to having a further report?
Yeah.
Okay.
If
Nobody?
we're not allowed the latitude to discuss it a bit here, I think it's potentially a waste of time. Thanks.
Well, I think we have discussed it. If you have more to discuss, feel free.
Well, you've called the question. The vote's been taken.
I don't think I had to vote, but anyway. Anyone opposed? Okay, now I've taken the vote. We have one. So moving on to, sorry, gonna move another computer here. Oh yeah, item B. Oh no, sorry. We're going to under K bylaws, bylaw 1, 465, or bylaw number 465, Quadra Island, Ramos. Report from the CAO be received.
Move receipt of CAO's report.
Second.
I think, Mr. Chair, John will speak to this.
Okay, John, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Application has been received to rezone a pre-existing 0.2 hectare parcel, currently zoned residential 1, to facilitate its subdivision into 2 equal lots of 1,000 square meters in size. Proposal supported by the QCO Village Plan, which designates the parcel as village peripheral residential, where the guidelines support low to medium density residential development, including secondary suites and home occupation studio uses, as well as commercial uses on a case-by-case basis. A review of the proposal has not identified any impact for adjacent landowners in the area or the residential use of the area, and the proposal is compatible with the existing residential use of the surrounding parcels and with the character of the area. Comments from government agencies and from First Nations have indicated no concerns with the proposal, provided the recognised archaeologist is present should any land-altering activities bring to light archaeological remains. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, John. So on receipt, is there any comment? Seeing none, that's carried. Item B, committee recommend
Move B.
65.
Bylaw 465 be forwarded to the board for first and second reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, that's carried.
Move
Item
C,
C,
and that the board authorize a public hearing to consider bylaw 465 and that the public hearing be held at a date and time to be determined.
Second.
yeah, I would like to just add on that one that the public hearing be held on October 5th as a virtual public hearing. That could go to the board. There seconder for that or not?
Mr. Chair, planning will have to confirm a location for the public hearing, so we'll take October 5th into consideration, but no guarantees.
Okay, well, the reason I brought it up is because Barb has historically reserved with the Quadra Island Rec Society all the Wednesdays in every month for public hearings. So that is a Wednesday. I'll be gone for a week. And other than that, we are pretty much tied up with UBCM, board meetings, et cetera, throughout September. So that was sort of the first opportunity that I saw where we might be able to have a virtual public hearing. So yes, take it into consideration. Thank you. Okay. Any opposed or any further, I don't know what's the word, comments? Anyone opposed? Carried. Okay, and the next one is bylaw 471 and 72, OCP amendment and rezoning. So it's two items all in one. Report from the CAO. Who's going to speak to this?
Move receipt.
John will speak to this after receipt.
Second on receipt.
Okay, been moved and received. Go ahead and speak to it, John.
Thank you very much again, Mr. Chairman. An application has been received to redesignate and rezone a 2.1 hectare parcel of land at Edgware Road in Heriot Bay, which is currently designated rural and zoned rural 1. The proposal is to facilitate a subdivision of the parcel into two lots of approximately 1 hectare each, to provide separate title for the existing dwellings on the parcel. The proposal will not yield an increase in density, but may result in a larger house being constructed on the subdivided parcel. Because currently we have one house and one cottage or secondary dwelling of 65.4 square meters on the property. Proposal is compatible with the existing residential use of the surrounding parcels and is consistent with the character of the area, which already includes a number of smaller parcels created through the OCP amendment and rezoning process. The proposal has not provided any land use implications, the proposal has not identified any land use implications, as no additional development is contemplated and there will be no net increase in density. Further, consultation with government agencies and First Nations have not yielded any concerns with the proposal. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So any questions of John? So on receipt, all those, anyone opposed? So, do you have your hand up, Brenda? Sorry.
No, I don't have my hand up.
Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay, then we go on to item B. Committee recommend to be forwarded to the board for first and second readings.
Move B.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Okay, thank you. Anyone have any discussion? Anyone opposed? Carried. On
Move
to
C.
item C. Okay, so this is that the board authorize the public hearing to consider bylaws 471, 472. Public hearing to be held, I would hope, on the same date as the other one. There's no reason virtually that it can't be. And I would also like to just say that I understand there are some concerns with this one, but they can be brought up at the public hearing. And I think that's the place to actually do it. We can't really change anything at this point. So
Mr. Chairman,
concerns,
you don't
public
have a
hearing.
motion on the floor currently, Mr.
Pardon?
Chairman?
Move C.
Well, I thought somebody moved it. Oh, so this is just B we're on, right?
No, we have.
This is C.
We're on C now. I think I heard somebody moved in second, but if
Yeah.
we could just, so I think Gerald moved, Noba seconded it. So we have a motion on the floor now.
Okay, so anyway, once again, I would suggest that any comments or concerns can be brought forward to the public hearing. And I would like to suggest the same as I did in the last one, October 5th, virtual public hearing. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That carries. Okay, and there's no new business, no addendum. And last item, termination.
Move termination.
Second.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. We are terminated. See you at 12:30.
Good.
Just one question, Tom. We are expected the old board to meet the last meeting after the election. Is that correct? On October 26th? And then in November, the new board begins. Is that correct?
Yes, the first board meeting in November is the inaugural meeting for new directors, yes. Until then,
So
of
we're